en route to visit their grandfather's grave, which has apparently been ritualistically desecrated, 5 teenagers pass a slaughterhouse, pick up and quickly drop a sinister hitchhiker, eat some delicious home-cured meat at a roadside gas station before ending up at the old family home, where they're plunged into a never-ending nightmare as they meet a family of cannibals who more than make up in power tools what they lack in social skills. Couldn't say it any better myself. Thank you, Michael Brook from IMDb. That is a brilliant plot synopsis. Question is, can you escape Leatherface and his whole deranged family? Find out as Halloween Horror Nights 26 brings you the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a retelling of the original 1974 Tobe Hooper controversial classic slasher. So, let's go to the timeline, shall we? Well, let's go back to June 10th last year. June 10th was the first Maze announcement in 2015. And that was Freddy vs. Jason. Now, less than a year later, pretty much to the day, 2 days ago, April 14th, close to 2 months earlier than we got our announcement for 25, we get our first official announcement for a Maze at Halloween Horror Nights 26. Now, the question remains, could this potentially lead to a Maze a month until August, where we get all the originals, whether they're mazes or scare zones, or what's going to happen with the shows? I mean, is it going to be anything like that? That's the question at this point. We're going to get a reveal every month, leading up to August when we get the full reveal. That's a question, but a question for a different time. Now, to give us some more information on this maze itself, Michael Aiello took to the Halloween Horror Nights ORL Twitter account, and he gave us these tidbits of information. He also posted in a blog at blog.universalorlando.com, and I'll put a link in the description bar for that blog itself, that this is going to be in a sprung tent. That's right. A lot of people were speculating when they heard the announcement, because we didn't get an official confirmation right away that what it was going to be in. It was like, is it going to be in a soundstage? Or we're going to get like a grand version of the Sawyer farmhouse and how it is deteriorating right before our eyes? Or is this going to be in a sprung tent, a little bit more claustrophobic, a little more cramped for quarters, a lot of very in-your-face chainsaw action? Or is this going to be the mysterious 9th maze location that nobody knows, but apparently people think is in World Expo? Ooh, I guess we'll find out somewhere down the line. No, it was officially confirmed it's going to be in a sprung tent. And if I had to guess, I'm going to go with Sprung Tent 2. Why? Because that housed Halloween and Insidious. And not only would that mean that you could have the house facade, just like we did the last 2 years, but you also can have a bonus scare at the end, where you're running for your life from the revving chainsaw, and you thought you finally got away from Leatherface, and sure enough, you hear that very familiar sound, and you smell the exhaust as Leatherface chases you away from the area. I think it pretty much just writes itself. That's a guess, though. So, he furthermore goes on to say they wanted confined corridors. Like I said, in-your-face chainsaw action. That's what we're going to call it from now on. We're going to see the whole family, including Grandpa, because everyone loves Grandpa, even though he's kind of on the old side. He still packs quite a punch, and if not, he has someone that can do it for him right on there. And I love when the phone rings in these videos, because it's really wonderful, because it totally like messes up everything. It never rings until I'm about to do a video, and then it starts ringing, so I had to kill it. So you're going to hear it in the background, but I had to kill it here, so yeah, I don't care who you are, you're not important right now. Anyway, you're going to see all the different versions of Leatherface throughout the film, all the different times you see him throughout the film. You're going to see all of those versions inside the maze itself. So like I said before, this is the earliest reveal we've ever had. Even more so than the supposed drip 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 that came out last year that pretty much told everybody the event way too early. This is before that, and I think they're trying to put the kibosh on those situations from happening again by releasing information earlier. That makes perfect sense to me, and that's what I'm gonna go with. Now, this is the last of the New Line 3 to come back to Halloween Horror Nights. The New Line 3, of course, being Freddy, Jason, and Leatherface, and that is tied into 2007's Carnival of Carnage year, which I'm about to talk about in a minute. Now, of course, we saw Freddy and Jason in the same maze last year at Freddy vs. Jason. How ironic, given the fact that Freddy and Jason, both being the first maze announcement of HHN 25, and now we go to 26 a year later, and their brethren from New Line is certainly there as our first announcement. So that's interesting that the New Line 3 in 2 years end up being the first announcement. Quite ironic. Now, another thing is I've been thinking for a while that the house in 2007 most likely wanted to be based on the 1974 classic, which is the house we're getting this year. But New Lines had a contract, and the contract stated that it had to be based on the reboots. Now, 2003's was directed by Marcus Nispel, who horror fans know later on did 2009's Friday the 13th, that reboot. And 2006, The New Beginning, was directed by Jonathan Liebesman. Horror fans know him from Darkness Falls in 2003, and mainstream knows him as the man who literally directed Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in 2014. No, Michael Bay did not direct the movie. It's just like people that think that Coraline was directed by Tim Burton. No, it was directed by Henry Selick. It's that kind of situation. And all the Eli Roth, Quentin Tarantino Presents movies that are not directed by them, they're directed by a director under their wing, basically. It's pretty much that. Now, the house in question in 2007 was in the earthquake queue. And the earthquake queue, of course, became disaster, and disaster is kind of waiting to be supercharged right now, to say the least. And this was Flesh Wounds. And I watched a video today on Flesh Wounds. It looks terrifying, especially with all the going through like the laundry sheets at the end after the maze was over. I think we get something like that this year, but something completely different, something even cooler. Who knows, maybe outside we might see Leatherface swing the chainsaw in the air while he gleefully swings the chainsaw. It'd be awesome. But we'll see what happens with that. So, that's speculation. Now, there were a lot of differences in these movies. First being the fact that they changed the name. Leatherface's last name was no longer Sawyer. They switched to Hewitt. And they flipped that around. Instead of being Bubba Sawyer, he was Thomas Hewitt. And that changed everything around. And another thing that they did was the fact that Leatherface this time was portrayed by a big monster of a man by the name of Andrew Bryniarski. And that was a difference too. Even though I say he was a monster of a man, he was only a half an inch shorter than the iconic Leatherface, who was the first Leatherface based where this maze is from, and that is Gunnar Hansen. And this house, I think, is going to be a very fitting tribute to his memory, as unfortunately he passed away from pancreatic cancer on November 7th last year. So let's look around when we're in the maze, running for our lives, and perhaps we're going to see an Easter egg of sorts. That's going to be a cheers to Gunnar Hansen's memory, and I think that's a guarantee at this point. It may not be something we can see, with our own two eyes in the maze with all the lights and the strobes and everything. No, it may be something we may have to catch on Unmasking the Horror Tour, but there's a reason to get an Unmasking the Horror Tour right there. And right now, the only way you can get one of those is if you book into one of the awesome Sapphire Falls packages that I talked about in previous videos. Now, another thing that was brought to my attention, this will be the 5th time that we've seen Leatherface at Halloween Horror Nights. He's been everywhere, obviously. He's been at haunts near and far, all across the globe. But we've only seen him at Horror Nights 4 times previously. And I'll tell you what those are. Again, thanks to Dr. Jimmy for bringing this to my attention. So, shout out as always, sir. And it would be HHN 5 in 1995 in the Universal's House of Horrors. Not to be confused with the shirt I'm wearing right now from the House of Horrors maze that was in 2012, which was my first year. And then at HHN 8 in 1998, which was the new Museum of Horror, there was the dinner scene featured in the first all-night die-in at HHN 13 in 2003, and of course, the aforementioned Flesh Wounds House and the cameo in Jack's Carnival of Carnage show in 2007 at 17, the Carnival of Carnage. Now, this has absolutely nothing to do with the prequel that may or may not be coming out this year. Now, there was a lot of speculation that there was a chance that there would be some sort of a tie-in if Texas Chainsaw Massacre came to Horror Nights this year. It may tie into the fact that the Leatherface movie's coming out. Number one, no. Number two, it's basically just, you have to look at it from the fact this is the original film. This is the original classic that started it all. And this has nothing to do with any prequels or reboots or remakes or anything else. This is all the original film and taking from the original film and going deeper, finding more into Leatherface's psyche and more about the deranged family. You're going to see even more than we even saw in the original film. Like, for example, there's the iconic kills we're going to see where Kirk enters the house and he's automatically bludgeoned with the hammer. And then the room of human bone furniture, just terrifying. And then Pam being caught and put on a meat hook. And of course, watching Kirk get butchered by Leatherface's chainsaw. And then killing Franklin with that saw and the freezer. And of course, the dinner table. Cannot forget the dinner table. That is a scary, scary scene, to say the least. And probably that very dark and eerie, Deliverance-style banjo music playing in the background. The only soundtrack to the sounds of screaming and terror and carnage and chainsaws that are permeating throughout the entire Sprung tent. I'll tell you right now, given the fact that the Sprung tents are so confined, it's going to be loud as all get out in there. And that is one thing I can guarantee at this point. So what do I think about this? Well, I'm not gonna lie. Back at the end of last year, I thought, it was just for a minute, so no one can call me out on it, I thought for a minute that all the saws everywhere were leading to chainsaws permeating the event this year. Like the chainsaw drill team would be back, the clown saws would be back, Eddie would be back, and in a full frame, not just like a cameo. We'd see Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We'd see Ash vs. Evil Dead. I mean, it'd be chainsaws everywhere, literally. But I quickly dismissed that. I was like, no, there's no way. It's not going to happen. Just speculation. I'll push that to the side. So I forgot about it, and I didn't think about it. And then I was thinking, when I was looking around and everybody started to go with the rumors that are around that Texas Chainsaw Massacre would be coming back, I was thinking, why? What's the point? Why? I mean, you have Eddie, so why do you need Leatherface? I mean, why do you need to bring in an IP when you already have an original character that obviously fans want to see that you could finally give a real year to? Especially because a lot of people were thinking they were hinting to it last year. Well, it makes sense, now that I've thought about it, that the general public probably have no idea who Eddie Schmidt is, but they definitely know who Leatherface is. And the general public, put them in a room and you put Eddie on one side and Leatherface on the other, 9 times out of 10, I think the general public are going to choose Leatherface, probably because they know him. And some people just want to walk through their favorite horror movie and be stalked by Michael Myers, or clawed by Freddy Krueger, or being attempted to be purged, potentially. I mean, they just want to be in their own horror movie. They want to be a part of it, and like I said before, like I said in the video last year, they kind of want to be a voyeur a little bit, watching the kills themselves. They basically are watching what the masters are doing at their craft and not have to participate, but still getting scared to death via what they're seeing. So I'm thinking that might be a possibility as well. The thing is, I understand. I do. I mean, it's 2016, and the last time we had Leatherface at the event was 2007. Now, it's been a while. It has. It's been 9 years. And if I mess that up, I can't do math. Everyone knows that. And it would make more sense if it was next year, because that'd be 10 exact years between the two houses. That's another story altogether. The thing is, 9 years. So, I'm curious to see what they do with this. Now, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to front, because I've never done that with you guys. I'm going to be completely 100% honest. This is not a house that I'm excited about. Not because I don't think it's going to look amazing. Not because I don't think the scares are going to be on point. Not because that I think that the atmosphere is going to be just spine-tingling. It's because, throughout time, for some odd reason, Leatherface has been the one character in horror that has always got to me. Now, maybe I'm a little bit more, numb to chainsaw sounds, or, I call them leaf blower drill team. It was just, a joke. No disrespect. But the thing is, I was numb to the chainsaw sounds a bit. But when it came down to it, this is something that's terrifying. This really is. I've had to face snakes before, which, of course, is the one thing I'm scared of more than anything in the world. And now, after going against walkers and purgers and Michael Myers and everybody in the cabin in the woods, I battled Freddy and Jason last year, and this year I gotta go toe-to-toe with Leatherface. Yeah. Like I said, I think it's gonna be an awesome house. I really do. Like I said, the tingling feeling in the back of my head is telling me I'm going to be scared to death going through it, which I guess could be an interesting thing, especially for the members of the elite around me whenever I'm going through the maze itself. I'm sure anybody that's going to be around me on employee preview night is probably really going to get a nice show, but we'll see what happens. I'm very curious to see how they pull this off, and I think that they can. And I think that we're only going to get more announcements from this moment on that are going to make this event not necessarily as big as 25, because you can't go that big until at least 30, but it's going to be a comparable event that is going to scare, it's going to entertain, and it's going to prove why Halloween Horror Nights is the tops when it comes to theme park horror. So, that's just my thoughts for this. I will tell you right now that later tonight, 10 p.m., we will have our first Halloween Horror Nights 26 Popcast. We got the Elite is on board, of course. I will talk about them in a moment, and we will be talking all things Texas Chainsaw Massacre, talking about our thoughts on this maze and this property itself, and Leatherface returning to the event. And thanks to a good friend of mine, who was my roommate at Cabana Bay last year, shout out, Jeff, the K-pop nerd, he came up with an HHN tag, and we're going to do that in the form of a Q&A. Plus, we're also going to do live Q&A with the Elite Podcaster panel. It's going to be done via our chat room that night, and also on Twitter. So we're going to probably use the hashtag HHN Popcast so you can ask your questions for the podcast, and that's pretty much the end of that. So we're going to have some fun, mark my words, and I'm curious to see when the next announcement shall be. So, that being said, you can follow me on Twitter at SirOwenDisney. You can follow Popcast Network on Twitter at Popcast Network. And you can like our Facebook fan page. It's under Sir Owen Disney Pop on Facebook, and search for Sir Owen Disney and Popcast Network if you want to look manually. And you can follow Halloween Horror Nights Orlando on Twitter at Horror Nights ORL. Check out Mike's blog I talked about Texas Chainsaw Massacre returning to the event at blog.universalorlando.com, and it's on the front page there. And you can check out some really awesome Horror Nights forums at horrornightnightmares.com and orlandounited.com. Some great Halloween Horror Nights related sites on the internet. Check out homemadehaunt.net, firstclasshorror.com, HHNCrypt.com, HHNLegacy.com, HHNYearbook.com, HHNUnofficial.com, and friends of the Popcast Network, the good folks at Neozaz.com. They just about to officially restart. They had to do a false start, obviously. They have one video that's out that was giving their reaction to this announcement, just like I'm doing right now, and that is the Catacombs of Halloween Horror Nights, and that's a podcast that's located, like I said, neozaz.com. Follow Popcast Network's Halloween Horror Nights panel. We call ourselves The Elite, and that is channels below Homemade Haunt. That's my good friends Tyler and Andy. That's at Homemade Haunt. You also can find my friend Cam, Cryptic Cam. That's at Cryptic Cam. Link in the description bar. My friend Ian, which is at Theme Park Browser, which is Theme Park Browse, and his channel Scream 101 Ian, as well as my good friend Travis at Travis Coaster, my good friend Aaron, Mr. Entertainment at Mr. ENT92, newest member of the Popcast Network, the combo of Aaron from First Class Horror, which is at First Class Horror, and that's at class_horror. And, of course, you can check out my friend Will, the final member of the Elite Popcaster panel, and that is at the Click Forever One. Links in the description bar for their channels. You can also check out some really awesome Horror Nights updaters all over the internet. The Horror Nights updaters, their singular channels. My friend John Psycho Massacre Film, my friend Vic Dr. Emmett Brown 1, my friend Neil UK HHN, my friend Aaron the Red Steel TV, my friend David the Crazy Englishman, my friend Tristan, HHN Fan 16, my friend Jeremy Films with 2 Z's, as well as HHN Assassin, and my friend James, HHN Updated 1, my friend Chris, HHN Legacy, Thrill Seeker Network, which is Mr. HHN, and some great content from Dr. Jimmy, it's Docimo on YouTube, the Tim Tracker, my friends Tim and Jen Tracker, as well as my good friend Kyle from View from the Cheap Seats, my good friend Liz, Disco Lazita, my good friend Mark, the Man in the Mala Vest, my friend Chris, Zombie Chris, really getting out there. Shout out to you, sir. It's Zkeeper83, and a great character from the previous years that is doing really well for himself. That is Andrew. It's Andrew R. Davis. So, that being said, I want to thank you guys and girls out there for watching, and hopefully you'll enjoy the first Halloween Horror Nights 26 Popcast later this evening. And until tomorrow, boys and girls, that's all we got to say about that.